So welcome everyone to our Instagram live chat with Dr. Helen Pheasy. She's the lead author of, the lead author of using GPS-enabled decoy turtle eggs to track illegal trade. So Helen holds a BSc in environmental science and an MSc in international wildlife trade and conservation. After her master's, she spent 2 years working in a field station in Paraguay before moving to Caña Palma in 2014 to run the turtle monitoring program. She then went on to do an in-water turtle project with Latin American sea turtles in Ossa for 6 months. During that time, she secured funding for her PhD, and after a brief spell back in the UK, to formally start her PhD process, she returned to Costa Rica for another 2 years to complete the research. Now finished her PhD, and she has published her manuscript that we're here to talk about, and is currently in the UK looking for a wildlife trade position, as well as publishing her PhD chapters. So welcome, Helen. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you. No, it's a pleasure to be here. A lot of fun.
Yeah, so I want to first go back before you actually began the project that is headlining this, is to talk about how you got involved with COTERC and Caña Palma, specifically the biological field station that this accounts off of. Tell us how you got involved in your experience down at the station, and perhaps also with the board, if you had any interaction with COTERC itself.
Yeah. So basically, Charlotte took a leap of faith in me. I'd done some field research in various places, and I'd just finished my master's, and I was really looking for a position that involved like a field post again and working with reptiles. It was going to be turtles. It had if you want to get paid for anything, it's going to be in turtles. And if I'm honest, I'd kind of resisted working with turtles for a little bit. You know, they're charismatic animals, they're very charming, and a lot of people want to work with them. So I'd kind of resisted a little bit, but yeah, I couldn't hold back much longer. And yeah, I saw this position advertised, I don't know where, in one of the, probably Stop Dodo actually, which is a good resource for people looking for work. And I just thought, I'll go for it. And then I looked at the COTERC website and everything, and the place is just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you come in by boat, it's in the jungle, it's just, it's paradise. There's so many animals everywhere, and the team just looked really, really fun. Like the whole thing just looked so much fun. And yeah, when I chatted with Charlotte and we started kind of working on doing the interview and stuff, it was really apparent that we were going to get along really well. And she just, even though I didn't have a huge amount of turtle experience, she took me on, and it was definitely a good move. It was awesome. So I ended up, I came for 9 months to do one season, and I ended up staying 2 years, and then coming back, and then coming back again, and then any excuse when I was in Costa Rica was, I'm in the Caribbean, over to Caña Palma. So yeah, good times.
It's definitely one of those unique places where it always draws you back. You want to find it anytime you can. And the company helps, right? I mean, there's nice people there. It's always nice when there's always I shouldn't say a warm bed. There might be a wet bed, but it's there. It's there. It's available.
Everything's a bit damp, isn't it? It's a lot of humidity. But you're always welcomed in with open arms. It's like, oh, come home to Caña Palma. It's
exactly.
nice.
And that's the attitude. It's great. It's very nice. It's a very warm, relaxing atmosphere, and gives you, like as you just said with Charlotte, is you didn't have the experience right there, but she took you on and was and brought you into it, and basically kind of showed you the ropes, and you can see this is a great example of somebody who didn't have that initial experience, and look where you are now.
Yeah. So it was definitely my break into this. Absolutely. And one of the things that I was doing when I left the UK to go to start my position at Caña Palma was I was on the lookout for a PhD question, and sort of that really helped me develop that and get that off the ground as well. So yeah, it made a big difference. It really did.
And so one of the big components of you said you were doing the sea turtle monitoring. So one of the main needs of the monitoring, if I understand it correctly, is understanding population dynamics and the potential future conservation needs. but also the monitors also help discourage poaching along the beaches. And how big of an issue is turtle poaching in Costa Rica? Either perhaps you could speak specifically on that on the Caribbean side, but perhaps also relate to the Pacific side as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really like localized. So in some beaches, there's virtually no problem. They're probably the more isolated beaches that are harder to get to. But over on the Caribbean, it is particularly bad. You've got different beaches needing to employ different strategies because of the different levels of poaching. So, for example, in a place called Pequari, which is south of like Caño Palma, Tortuguera, it's further south along the coast. On that beach, it's quite different because for a start, it's legal to be on the beach at night. So there's no restrictions like there are at Playa Norte and yeah, at the STC as well. They have different rules, but and so you have this situation where people can be on the beach, which makes it a lot easier to take eggs. Like
Right.
you're not, you know. So when you've got that situation, like the problem there is so severe, and people really only go there just to take eggs or turtles. And so you find yourself in a situation where you're racing the poachers, literally, like you'll be walking next to them, walking alongside them with your team, because the deal is whoever gets to the turtle first can have those eggs or the turtle itself.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's a really severe example on one extreme. And then what you have at Playa Norte, or certainly when I was there, and I don't really want to talk about too much about what's happening now because I've not been there myself, but you know, I can guess. But at Caño Palma, the poaching, it's illegal to be on the beach at night, which means that people are much, much more secretive about it, which makes it a lot harder. And so by having patrols on the beach, it's sufficient to keep the numbers down, or the number of poaching events down. And so you have to employ different strategies. So in Pequare, for example, they have to have a hatchery. If they don't move eggs off the beach, they're going to get taken. Whereas at Caño Palma, yeah, exactly. But at Caño Palma, it's slightly different in that the poaching pressure is there, but it's not so high that it justifies having a hatchery. And we could talk for ages about the pros and cons of hatcheries as well. I think that will off
Right.
our aims. But yeah, so certainly for Caño Palma, the best method is just to be on the beach, you know, preventing poaching and yeah, just deterring people from actually like approaching turtles because you're with the turtle. And you know, it's the same principle applies. Like if you're with the turtle, it's your turtle. You've got it. So it's just a
Wow.
case of getting to the turtle first and staying with her and getting her back to sea to keep her safe. So in terms of quantifying it, it's really difficult to tell, and I should imagine it varies from year to year depending on different pressures. So, but one of the kind of key things about protecting the eggs is that whereas when you take a turtle, that turtle is then out. But if you take the eggs, you're not actually going to see the effect of that for about 25 years, because it takes
Mhm.
approximately that long for the turtles to actually reach sexual maturity and come back to the beaches to nest. And so with that time lag, you really don't know what damage you're doing or how bad the situation is now,
Right.
because the poached generation isn't going to be visible in the population until 25 years or however long it takes for that population to reach sexual maturity. So yeah, it's a big problem, and it's something that we really need to be kind of focused on and aware of, and sort of working as one of many strategies to deal with.
And so down there, when you were there as the turtle monitoring intern, correct? And
Yeah,
so
yeah, it was the head intern position I had, yeah.
yeah, and so that I should just to point out the we want to thank the Toronto Zoo for a lot of their funding and support of the turtle monitoring program. And so it was basically, yeah, it was a lot of nighttime, overnight, late night running those beaches. It's almost like running the gauntlet
Yeah,
sort of thing, right? Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot
But
of work. It's a lot of work. There's no point pretending that it's easy to do. Like I think people have this image of like walking along this kind of moonlit beach and thinking that they're just going to encounter turtles every 20 minutes, and sometimes it is like that. Don't get me wrong. Like peak
yeah,
season, you can be tripping over turtles to the point where you actually would like them to stop now. You just want to go to bed. But also on the other hand, there's nights, and you can go for a really long time just walking and walking in the dark, trying to keep a low profile so the poachers don't know where you are. And sometimes it's raining. A lot of the time it's raining. Sometimes it's raining the minute you get in the boat to go there. It's not always comfortable, but honestly, the rewards are fantastic. Like when you get a leatherback, for example, it's just, yeah, it blows your mind.
Incredible.
Blows your mind. Yeah. It
It's
makes it
surprising how big they really are. You don't get that
really, and
appreciation, right?
yeah, and like you get there and you think, oh, it's not that big, because you see it and it's still buried in the sand and stuff, and then it starts moving. You're just like, okay, well, this is
It's like a small car kind of going back into the water, right?
yeah, it's in wheelies, yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, and so that experience there, and as you said, you were heading down with a research question in mind, and so how about how about you tell us about how that your research project then started? I mean, you say you went down for the idea of having with a question or looking for a question, and so did that question come from when you were there and doing that monitoring?
Yeah, it all sort of came together at once, really, because I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of my PhD question, because that gets really complicated. But I was looking at kind of the legal trade and the illegal trade of turtle eggs in Costa Rica. In kind of developing this question, it was actually Molly who was at the station, who's been the research coordinator quite a few times there, or been there for ages. But yeah, she actually found this article about these decoy eggs that were being developed, and passed them over to me. Thank you, Molly, appreciate that. And she basically was saying, have you seen this? These guys have got these tracking devices that they're going to put in turtle nests. And I'm like, what? Okay. This sounds exactly like the sort of thing I need to be looking at for my PhD, because it's looking at trade routes and trafficking routes in Costa Rica and sea turtle eggs, and everything just came together. And so I kind of took that, and I took that idea and that information, and I just kept badgering Paso Pacifico, who are making the eggs, and just kept emailing them and say, hi, I'm doing my PhD on sea turtle eggs, and this looks like really compatible with my research, and what stage are you at with your project? And we got in touch, and I started talking to them. And I have to say, Paso Pacifico are absolutely amazing kind of NGO. They're based in California, but they were doing work in Nicaragua. And so they were having, I don't know if you're familiar with the situation in Nicaragua, but the political unrest around the time of my research just exploded, and it got really not a good place to be working.
Right.
So they were in a situation where they had these prototype eggs ready to go, and they really wanted to sort of get them moving, but they didn't have a project site to work at, because the situation in Nicaragua was just getting more and more heated and getting very dangerous to be in there. So yeah, it kind of all happened at the same time that I was looking for this research and sort of interested in their eggs. And so I was like, well, I've got this field station that I've been working on that I think would be absolutely brilliant. It's got in situ nest protection, which means we could put the decoys into the nests without the poachers having any idea what we're doing. We're not going to be sacrificing nests by leaving them on the beach and not in a hatchery, and it wouldn't arouse any suspicions. You think, would you be interested in doing collaborating on this and getting the ball rolling? And they were absolutely delighted to have someone who was in the field able to do that. And obviously I really wanted to work with these decoy eggs, because I mean, the potential is just incredible anyway, but it was so compatible with my project. We just went for it. So yeah,
that was the investigator, right? Or investigator.
Yeah, exactly. So
right.
It's probably a good time to kind of introduce those now, actually, and sort of explain to anyone who maybe is just kind of new to the project. Basically, what Paso Pacifico did was create a 3D printed decoy turtle egg that has a tracking device inside it. I've got some here. So this is one that you can't really see it so well on the thing, but this is basically one of the complete models. It's got a dimple in it here. I don't know if that works, if you can see that, but it's got because the thing is, turtle eggs dimple when you touch them. They're squishy. They're not hard like chicken eggs, and so they needed to create something that had that feel to it. But inside, what you've actually got, this is the right way up, is, oh, I don't know how well this will show, but
Yeah,
you can see the pictures on
that's
Instagram
good.
anyway. But
Yeah.
basically, what you see is there's a battery pack here, and this is the transmitter itself with a little space for a local SIM card. Because basically, what you've got is the same technology that goes into your mobile phone or your cell phones, as you guys call them. But you have these little doors on the eggs. When you open the eggs, there's a charging port, and then there's a little. I can get it open. Yep, that's where your SIM card will go in. And so what they did was they actually 3D print the housing to this point, put the tracking device inside it, and then carry on 3D printing around it. So you end up with this complete egg.
That's
Genius.
incredible. Yeah.
And as I say, they run off. They're the same technology as your mobile phone. So you've got a SIM card, you've got that attaches or pings off like cell towers, and then you've got also the GPS capabilities in there as well. So whichever way, whatever signal you're going to pick up the closest or the best, it'll latch onto those. So yeah, it's a pretty nifty little device. They're the same size, weight, and kind of everything as a green sea turtle egg. So they are a little bit bigger than olive ridley or hawksbill eggs. But yeah, one of the things that we found was that it didn't actually matter. We put them in olive ridley eggs and nests, and it didn't. Being too big, it didn't matter. Yeah, no, it didn't show. So
That's
yeah,
incredible.
cool.
And so
Cool
that,
toy.
yeah, that looks, and so when I was reading your paper, one of the challenges you had with it was signal. And so when you say it's about
Yeah.
the idea of it being a SIM card and then the little micro SD card,
Mm-hmm.
it was, so when it finally got a signal or pinged, I guess, that's the idea, right? And then it
Mm-hmm.
collects that data, and I guess is the SIM card. If you found one of those eggs, say that just wasn't pinging or found it after, could you download that information off the SIM card?
If
Or
it
not
was
the SIM
online,
card, the SD card. Sorry, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
it was
yeah,
there.
yeah. No, it's a local SIM card. Basically, how it
Oh,
works is that you put a local SIM card into each egg, and then you connect it to your like an app that you can use either on a web page or on a cell phone app. And then what you basically have to just kind of text the egg when you've got a signal and tell it, okay, I'm going to call you this number, and then I want this settings. And so what I was doing was having it set to every hour because that gave us the most battery life without it being like we probably didn't need more detail than what they ping every hour. And it's really important to realize that what we were doing with this was just testing the technology. So in a lot of respects, we were just trying out loads of different things and seeing what worked and what didn't and looking for problems within it. So yeah, those were like, that's why I wanted to work on different beaches and do different things like that, was just to get a real feel for like all of the different kind of problems that might arise.
right. And so this is what really should be emphasized, is emphasized in your paper, but in this talk, is this is the first field test, true field test
Mm, mm.
of this
Yeah,
work. And
yeah,
how about, yeah, you want to tell us about the results? There's some really interesting results out of
yeah,
this, and future applications you could see. But yeah, please let us know.
yeah. Okay, well, the first thing we had to do is actually put them into the nests, and we literally did that as the turtle was laying. So anyone who's done a project at Canyon Palmer will know the protocols, but basically we find a turtle when she's laying. That's when I would sneak an egg in. So we completely like kept in line with all of the protocols. We did everything as we would do normally. We just happened to have a decoy snuck in there. And then we would wait. And we waited and we waited and nothing happened. And every day at the station, everyone's going, has anything moved yet? And I'd be like, no, this isn't going to work, is it? Oh no. But then some did get discovered as well, which was really disheartening. Like the first egg to be found next to a nest was just like, that's it. That's it. The
Uh,
project, we're done. But we persevered, and thank God we did, because after that we actually started getting like tracks from the eggs. And so yeah, we got some quite amusing results. Like I think the first track came online on like way out of the jungle, because for those of you who haven't been to the station, you basically have the beach, a load of jungle, to get out of the jungle, you come out in by boat, and then you hit a road and start moving inland. And it wasn't until things actually, like the eggs started coming online inland, that we'd actually pick up a track, because that was the best place to get a signal. And so our first track, it was quite a short track. It came online sort of, I don't know, Carriari, Guapiles kind of area, but like it started moving up north, which was quite interesting. It was like, oh, I wasn't expecting it to go there. Like, if anything, like we'd expected to go to Le Mans, or I don't know, anyway. But yeah, followed it, got a couple of pings off it, and the actual final like ping that it gave us was from a riverbed, which kind of suggests someone's kind of clocked it, they've bought it, they've realised, and they've just gone, and thrown it in a river.
Tossed it away.
Yeah, exactly. You can imagine their frustration at not being able to eat this egg. So, but then we also started getting like results that were quite kind of significant and quite useful. Like one of them, we actually had a situation where we got part of a track again, and again it was sort of once it had come inland. And it really didn't give us very much information. It gave us maybe 2 or 3 pings, and it stopped in town, and okay, fair enough. But then what we actually got was about 10 or 11 days later, we actually received a WhatsApp message with some photos in it. And like the guys that had bought the egg had sort of realized that they couldn't eat it, had dissected it, taken a load of pictures of it, kind of opened up and gone, what is this? What's going on? And then actually got in touch with a conservation project to say, is this your technology? But the really interesting thing about that, it was quite interesting that it obviously wasn't a sensitive issue for them to actually contact a turtle program and say, we've got this, you know, because it's kind of incriminating. But the other thing was they actually gave us a load of information about the trade chain that had gave us information before they'd actually like picked up the track. So they filled in the blanks for us in a lot of respects and said, oh yeah, a whole nest of eggs was bought at this location at this time. And yeah, it kind of passed. Yeah, it's like bycatch data, if you like. It was, yeah, completely unexpected. So
that's incredible that they were willing to perhaps risk themselves, you know.
Well, this is what we thought. But then, as like through doing my other research and interviewing people and talking to people about kind of the legal and illegal trade of turtle eggs, what we found is that one of the things is that it's not actually illegal to buy eggs. It's illegal to take them out. It's illegal to traffic them, and it's illegal to sell them. But it's not actually illegal to buy them, which is. One reason that they may have been less concerned about it. The other thing was I did quite a lot of work interviewing people and asking them about sea turtle egg trade. And what we found was that it just was not a sensitive issue. Like people weren't concerned about discussing it. They were quite happy to sort of talk about it. And so this was kind of another reason why we think that it wasn't too big a concern for them. And I think when they actually sent us those photos, they were actually expecting to see a camera in there, and they were looking for like a camera lens. So they were kind of close, but not quite.
That's incredible, though, and that you were able to they actually were able to track it back to you guys to get a message. So that's incredible.
It came through 2 other parties. There was a tour guide sent it to someone else who then sent it on to us. So yeah, it took a little bit of time. But one of the things that we just kind of put out was we were just saying, oh yeah, we're just monitoring what's going on inside the nest, and just because it's not that unusual to put foreign objects in turtle nests. Like people have been doing it. I think they did it at Canyon Palmer actually, where you can put like temperature measurers and things like that. So it's not too big a leap to kind of say, well, this is what we've been doing. So
True. Yeah, I guess that's it. And the fact that they probably would look at it and go, it's probably just another temperature log or a data log, and they wouldn't think it was actually tracking them or anything.
Exactly. I mean, it's a bit of a leap, isn't it?
Well, that one you said you found by the riverbank, I noticed a question that popped up as well. Do any of them, do they suffer from water damage, or is that 3D printing actually almost like a rubberized housing around the SIM card and the charging port?
So yes, some of them did malfunction, and one of the things that we did at Canyon Palmer was dig up the eggs at the end of the incubation period. Like we always do that anyway with the nests that we've triangulated, and using the data from that, we're able to see what the malfunction rate was likely to be. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but it basically gave us an opportunity to say, okay, we think this many have malfunctioned, therefore the ones that haven't malfunctioned didn't leave the local area and stuff like that. But what we would do is when we actually like put the the door in, what I would then do is either paint it over or just seal it with a bit of wax, and that would disguise that little door a little bit better and also just make it that little bit more waterproof. But yeah, I mean, some of them are it's quite flexible, kind of delicate housing, so there were some that got scratched and things like that, so you're always going to have that kind of problem. But yeah, it's one of those, like one of the things that we sort of did, or at least Paso Pacifico sort of were sort of thinking through the process, was they got as many transmitters as possible. They basically use these custom-made transmitters because we had to use the same kind of strategy as the turtles. Like the turtles, that they lay a lot of nests every season, so that some of them might make it to hatch, some of them might get to adulthood, and I think it's estimated that only 1 in 1,000 will actually make it from egg all the way through to coming back to nest. And so when you've got a reproduction strategy like that, we had to kind of use a similar strategy with our deployments. Some of them are going to get poached, some of them are going to get stolen. So what we need, I keep saying we, but Paso Pacifico really were looking for something that was fairly quick to customize and just get as many out as possible. So it's fairly cheap. It's a little bit clunky, the technology, but it did mean that we can actually put more out than we knew were going to get taken. So.
Right. I mean, at the very least, this is a great step forward into improving it in the future. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And like one of the things that we actually found was that we actually had a lot fewer poached than we were expecting, which the one time you want poaching.
Yeah, exactly. In one of your eggs, and I'm sorry, I don't think we touched on it yet, was you had one that took quite a journey inland.
Yeah. This was the winner. So to sort of talk you through that story, I've been working on it was over on the Pacific, so I was working with olive ridley eggs, and I was working on a beach that actually has small arabadas as well, and typically, this also gives you an idea of how many problems we encountered. We had too many turtles for a really long time, and we couldn't actually deploy any eggs because they had a mini arabada twice in the very short amount of time that I had to actually deploy these eggs. So I had a beach that was, olive ridley turtles. We were loads of poaching rate was quite high. Shouldn't be a problem deploying them, because one of the beautiful things about olive ridleys is nobody wants to eat them. So you can literally chuck an egg in, move to another turtle, and there will be another turtle. So it was kind of a very different strategy. But anyway, we were putting these eggs out. Well, first we couldn't deploy them. Eventually it was just one of those nights. It was just like, right, I'm just going to do one last night. I'm just going to try one last time, because this is doing my head in now. And anyone who knows me will know how kind of when I set my mind on something, I want it. I inconvenienced a lot of people to get a final patrol out. Anyway, so we went out. And it was a Saturday night, and it was about, I looked at the data recently, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning that we actually deployed these eggs. I mean, it was just I was at the end of my tether. Anyway, we went out, did this. Nothing happens, go home to bed. The next day, looking, nothing happened. I was like, typical. Monday morning, I go to check my phone, and things come online. And there's an egg online. I'm like, there's an egg online, which is super exciting anyway, But it came online, and it just kept moving. And it moved and it moved and it moved. And every hour I'm getting a ping from further inland. I'm like, they still haven't found it. They still haven't found it. And it's moved inland. It's gone further and further. And eventually it stops. And it's about 10, 11 o'clock on a Monday morning. And zoom in on the final ping, and it hasn't moved for a few hours now. So I'm like, okay, I zoom in, and it's behind a supermarket loading bay. It's in this dodgy back alley. There's this honestly, why would you be there? And I know you've got illegal eggs because you've got my one with you. Like, this is amazing. This has happened. And the thing about the accuracy of these eggs, because it's in a suburban area, it's like in the middle of the Central Valley, like you can see to within 10 meters precision. So I knew that this was, and I'm zooming in, and you can look on like Google Maps and you can change it to satellite view. I mean, it's exactly the same as you do with any, with any
Wow.
mapping program. And I'm like, I know exactly where that is. And honestly, the temptation to get in the car and go and find it was
Exactly.
one thing, but fortunately, it was like other logistics prevented that. But I was just like, wow. The next day, I went to download the data from the egg because I was like, right, that's it. It hasn't moved for hours. They found it, and
Hmm.
it's in a residential property. It's in someone's house, and I can identify the exact house it's in because the roof color, like I can see.
Wow.
So I was just like, this is incredible. That pretty much shows that we've proved the concept. This is what we're trying to do. We've got a situation where we've taken an egg and we've deployed it on the beach. Someone has definitely taken it out of the beach, and then there's been a delay which suggests that it might have been handed over to a trafficker, which, given what we know about the people who are actually like taking eggs out of the beach and the people that are moving them inland, like the capabilities are a little bit different. So we've got this egg, and then it just moves and moves and moves and goes to what can only be described as a back alley transaction. I mean, it's just such a dodgy deal. And then it's ended up with a final consumer because it's in a residential property, which pretty much tells us what we knew about egg sales in the coastal areas, which is that the eggs are usually sold door to door as quickly as possible, just make a quick buck. And that seems to be a similar pattern that we found in the Central Valley. Like, they're being sold door to door. Like, this egg didn't go to a market. It wasn't mixing in with any legal eggs or anything like that. This is like very much an underground black market transaction. So yeah, that was
Incredible.
incredible. That was a good day. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure the temptation was even greater, yeah, to go knock on that door and just be like, could I have
I
my...
did drive there. I did. Oh yeah, on my way back to the Caribbean, I did drive past and check it, and I was like, "I know it's
No,
in your
really?
house."
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Yeah, well, I think that's proof of concept in the idea that you said about the SIM card, that the more technology, the more towers that are around that can ping that, the greater the accuracy you can get, right?
Exactly. I mean, over in the Caribbean by Canyon Palma, we were finding that the ones that were pinging, they were all giving the same location, which is the one cell tower in Tortuguero. Um, so, there's only so much you can do with that, but we knew that they were staying in the local area. So, I mean, that didn't really tell us anything that we didn't know already. I mean, we know that we need to target demand reduction campaigns locally, and that's very useful information, but it's actually incredibly challenging. And there's been so much research about how, even when you inform people of what the problem is, even people who care, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to change their behavior. And so that's a
Mhm.
whole new kind of can of worms. And really, what I think is the approach, and I think it's one of the approaches that Canyon Palmer are doing really, really well, is that educating the children early on, not even necessarily about turtles or conservation work, but giving them a basic education so they can go on to high school. That's what's
Right,
really going to make a difference, because the people that are taking the eggs off the beaches, they're just trying to make a quick buck.
right.
Like, they don't have employment opportunities like they would do if they had an education. And certainly when I was in Pequare, where we were literally raping the poachers, I was interviewing them, and they were basically telling me, some of the guys couldn't even hold a pen to sign the consent form to say I could use this information for my research. Like, their
Wow.
literacy level is so low. And so you've got these kind of really marginalized individuals, and especially they also migrate into coastal areas specifically for turtle season. So what you really want to be doing is tackling that issue, which
Hmm.
is, 'cause it's bloody hard work walking up and down a beach looking for turtles. Like, if there's a better way of making money, like having a job, or
Exactly. Well, if
it's
they're
an
willing to put
opportunity
in
that the single
hours,
padre.
yeah, you can
Exactly.
see that they've got the drive. The drive's there.
Yeah.
They just don't have the means, the wherewithal to get the get that job. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
so if you had a situation where you can actually give the youngsters today, if they can be educated so that they can have an education, which means they don't have to go out onto the beach, and you're always going to have some poaching. You're always going to have a
Hmm.
little bit. But I think with that in combination with patrolling and these decoy eggs are just another part of that. It's a multi-pronged approach that we need to be taking. So yeah, that's
You see that in
big.
other areas as well. Yeah, well, and that's it. You see like a lot of conversion, trying to get these people that were once poachers or once smugglers or just not just needed a job, and they switched to the tourism side of things. And so
Yeah.
rather than the theft, they're promoting, taking these people on tours to see these
Hmm.
animals,
Hmm.
that switch. And I think that's if when I was speaking to Charlotte, that was something that was always starting. That was being done around in Tortuguero, but we're seeing that impact of COVID. I mean, I know you can't speak on COVID impacts down there, but we're seeing that tourism restriction. So
Yeah,
it's sort
I
of
can
all the
imagine.
people that had that alternative income don't have it anymore. So we're seeing that
Yeah.
spike again, and that's why we're really trying to promote getting people down to the state. Hey, we need some more turtle monitors. Come on down to the station. It's a
Honestly, and the thing is, I mean, it is so effective. Like patrolling is so effective. You're literally like frontline. It's not dangerous because you're in a team, you're supported, you're trained, you've got everything that you need in place. All we need is like boots on the ground to literally just be there and get to the turtle because honestly, every single turtle that gets back to sea because of you is alive because you were there. Like there's a very real like chance that they would have been like taken for meat.
yeah.
So and that's I think that's one of the things that is just so kind of raw, if you like, so important. It really is just it's so effective. I mean, it's bloody hard work, but it's effective,
Mhm.
and you're literally just keeping turtles alive by walking the beach, deterring poaching. Like you don't have to talk to them; they'll run away when they see people coming. All you have to do is be there. So, yeah, and
They don't
it's
want the conflict.
no, they're not looking for conflict. They don't want to be recognised. They don't want to be seen. They're hiding in the bushes, waiting for us to go past. And it's completely it's just so effective.
And
But obviously, the more teams, the better, because one of the biggest problems we have is that once you're with a turtle, you're with her for the duration of her nesting, which could be 5, 6 hours, which is quite nice for you because you get to sit with a turtle for 5 or 6 hours, watching her doing her natural thing in moonlight and under the stars or the clouds or in the rain, or you get to see them count. You get to count the eggs and measure her and do all the things and just stay with her and get her
right.
safely to sea. But while you're with that turtle, the rest of the beach isn't, we need more teams on the beach to ensure that we've got enough coverage and we can, yeah. So, yeah, boots on the ground, guys, get out there.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
for us up in the northern hemisphere, winter's coming, and so look, it's a
Yeah.
little warmer down there. Um, eh, so obviously, I mean, you had some amazing results from this paper, and so I wanted to see like what's been your feedback so far from conservation groups, other fellow academics, the public generally. I mean, how has it been received? It seems pretty
It's been
positive.
huge. Like, it was so much bigger than I was expecting. Like I knew that because the Current Biology, who published the paper, they actually sent me a press release in advance and said we're going to be promoting your project, and I was like, brilliant, thank you very much. And in advance of it being published, it came out on the 5th of October, and about 3 or 4 days, no, a week before that. I started getting people getting in touch saying, "Oh, we've seen the press release. We know that it's under press embargo, but we want to have something ready to go to coincide with it being published." So I did about 8 interviews before that, and I thought that was massive. Yeah, right.
Yeah, for sure.
And as well, like Smithsonian Magazine, New Scientist, Science Magazine, like loads of really, really sort of big sciencey things. And I thought, oh, this is, pretty good, pretty happy with this. Like, and then when it came out, everything just absolutely exploded. Like it was 4 o'clock UK time that it came out for me. And I'd put a Twitter feed up as well to coincide with it, thinking, oh, just bit of shameless self-promotion.
Nothing wrong with that.
I know. Yeah, and then the rest of that week, honestly, it was just, I was bombarded with like people wanting interviews. They wanted to do things on Zoom. They wanted to do telephone interviews. They wanted to do like everything from like
Instagram live chats.
you know, I had National Geographic, I had the Weather Channel, and like, you know, I could name drop for a very long time, but yeah, it's been stunning. It's been really, really good. And the other thing that's been really nice as well is that the majority of it has been really positive. Like, there's not been too many trolls. There's not been too many people kind of going, oh, about this, and oh, you're tipping off the poachers, and all the things that, you know.
Yeah.
Actually, people have taken it on board, and the people that haven't have actually come back with like constructive criticism that have given me an opportunity on Twitter to be able to say, thank you, that's a really good point, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to respond to this. Yeah, you haven't got the whole story with this article because they didn't also mention this bit that we talked about, and a lot of it was about like, you know, the ethics of doing this, and you know, it is covert research, so we, you know, an opportunity then to explain that as an academic paper, this isn't about getting somebody arrested at this stage. What we're trying to do is just test the technology. And so that's been a really nice kind of way of being able to integrate that for the articles or the radio shows or whatever it was that I did where that maybe wasn't featured in it. So yeah, it's been good. It's been overwhelming. I'm not going to lie. It was a lot bigger than I expected. But yeah.
It's good,
yeah.
right? It's that, it sounds like, I mean, the whole adage of like, any news is good news, but it sounds like it was really all positive, minus, as you said, you know, the odd troll here and there, but you're always going to get that these days.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. And to be honest, I mean, it's such a good news story as well at a time where we are literally bombarded with the US election and COVID. Like,
exactly.
It's really come at a better time for me. Like, everyone's ready to latch on to anything that's good in the world at the moment. So.
But that's it. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's a positive thing. It's very few positive things around right now, and this has got a lot of good potential. And I guess that sort of brings me to that next sort of question: is like, where do you see this specific research going, like you know, with this tracking, with the idea of
so in terms of turtle research, what we would like to see is more conservation projects getting involved and using the eggs, because one of the things that I was really trying to do with mine was actually find as many problems as possible, which is why I was going out onto different beaches. And we really found that just even within Costa Rica, that there were differences at different sites. So, for example, working with greens, as I said, it took a really long time to deploy the eggs because the turtle just takes so long to nest. Whereas on the Pacific, we didn't have that problem. You could literally just fire an egg in and go to the next one. It was fantastic. But one of the things that we really noticed, and we found out too late, was that in the Caribbean, all of our poachers are active at around 4 o'clock in the morning. So they're active at dawn. Whereas on the Pacific, we found out too late that they're all active at like 6, 7 in the evening. And so what we did was we spent an entire night putting out eggs, delighted with our progress, and thought, hey, record night, wicked. Scared them all off.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
is there a reason for that? Like, is there a reason? Is it just coinciding with because they're all of Ridley's versus greens? Do they just nest at a different time, or?
Yeah, very possibly, or different motivations, or I don't know. It's just, I mean, I doubt that they're crossing, like the poachers are crossing into different coastlines. I think they're all just local people that just happen to work from the eggs from the night before or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, and the other thing that we found in the Pacific that we didn't have as a problem at Caño Palma was that at Caño Palma, the main predators of nests are, or mammalian predators, I should say, are domestic dogs. And they're really active at the end of the incubation period, which had no relevance to our project because our batteries would have run out by then, and you know the poachers aren't interested in eggs that developed. But then on the Pacific side, we were finding that we had mammalian predators that were like more natural, if you like. So we had like coatis and raccoons and things like that. And they'd literally be taking eggs out of the nest as the turtle's laying them. So that made our deployment strategy very different because it made us, they only really take the top layer of eggs. So we were finding that we were having to bury our decoys much, much deeper in the nest than we had on the Caribbean. And so you've just got these two differences just between two different coastlines in Costa Rica. It's like how many other things are going to come up in different countries with different pressures and things like that. So this is one of the things that we want to do now, is like encourage people to actually try these out in different countries so that we can foresee these problems, and just hone the technology as much as possible. Get it, like, the technology is small. It's small enough now. We can, you know, now it's looking like we're going to be able to get it good enough to be able to go across international borders, or, you know, across seas, or longer battery life. You know, all of this potential is already kind of happening. And so really, in terms of turtles, that's what we want to do. But then this has applications for all sorts of other like species as well, because you literally just need to change the housing and the deployment strategy, and you could pretty much do it for anything that's kind of the right size. I mean, your limitation is the size and the battery life, but I know Paso Pacifico are working to put like transmitters in shark fins, and they're working on like a thing for that. There's also talk about maybe using them in parrot eggs, where parrot eggs are getting poached for collectors and things like that. So, as I say, there's all sorts of there's all sorts of different species that this could be applied to, and in some countries, crocodiles get their eggs get stolen. So, almost exactly the same housing for a turtle egg. It's just you're going to have to change your deployment strategy quite.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one.
Dealing with an angry mother crocodile is going to be your biggest problem there. So, so yeah, lots of different kind of problems, lots of different solutions, lots of different situations, and yeah, it's like, as I say, it's just in its infancy now. It's a case of just, yeah, the world is our oyster.
It's a great proof of concept. And you're right. And now with this attention, as you were saying, I mean, it shines a good light on that, and says, you know, we can now, hopefully, that Paso Pacifico could actually get perhaps, you know, more funding to improve the technology even greater. You know, it's gonna last.
Yeah, I mean, the field trial allowed them to get funding from wildlife, what's it called? Wildlife Crime Tech Challenge, I think it's called, or Wild Tech Crime Challenge. So they got a healthy like contribution for developing this further, which was really nice. So yeah, I mean, now that this kind of thing has got so much publicity as well, I think it's only a matter of time before, you know, more funding becomes available for this kind of research, and sort of shows that it can be done, and technology is there now. We just need to, yeah, it's only going to keep getting better.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's excellent. I mean, I wanted to sort of close on the project just by one more quick thing. You've got a really interesting component to this project, that it was run by an all-female team. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely brilliant. So there was myself, like, in the field, but the team behind it, we've got Sarah, who's the kind of Paso Pacifico director or CEO, but then Kim Williams-Guillen is the person who actually came up with this idea. Like, she came up with the idea. She's a scientist. She's, you know, just not only thought of it, but actually put it into effect and actually got it like off the ground. And then you've got so many teams at Canyon Palmer are female teams. Like the whole project has been female led, and I think that's a really important thing for people to kind of realize, is that often there's a massive female bias in conservation anyway. And it's women that are on the ground doing this. It's women that are going out onto the beaches and putting eggs in the ground. And like, we do have men as well, and they're more than welcome, and we want more of you, trust us. But like, a lot of it is female led, and I think especially with kind of, you know, an interest in women in STEM and just getting kind of more publicity for women in conservation, women in science, I think this is another really good opportunity to kind of sort of mention that and let people know that, you know, there's girls that are doing it, guys.
It's good quality work. Yeah.
And also supporting each other. This is the other thing that you really notice when you're working with women, is that, you know, I think there's a certain point where you hit your career and you realize that you're actually a group of women bigging each other up, building each other up, supporting each other, and that's something that, you know, I think is definitely growing at the moment. It's certainly something that should be championed and kind of, yeah, come on girls, we're in this together, we big each other up. And honestly, I've had so much support from my female friends and colleagues. They've just been so delighted on my behalf, and it's been really, really touching. It's been good.
It's great to see that, and there is a growing. And I mean, I'm speaking obviously as a male, but generally I find as of late there's been a lot more of that growing of community over competition.
Yeah,
in many fields, but in this, it's everyone kind of working together, you know.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
of
course,
all
the turtles are all
females.
females.
Yeah, we are. Well, the ones that come onto the beaches are.
So I wanted to say, I mean, thank you very much, Helen. I had one more, just sort of a final question here. I wanted to say, like, what's next for you? So what's your next steps? Where are you heading here?
Yeah, so I've still got quite a lot of research, like my research to publish from my PhD. I've still got 4 papers that are sort of in various stages of publication. I've got another project that I'm working with Canio Palma, where I'm using data from Canio Palma, the STC and Pequari, Latin American sea turtles. We're collaborating to put together a paper on the rate of poaching in the Caribbean. So that's going to be quite an interesting one, because it's a big question that people keep asking. It's like, how big is the problem? And it's like, well, yeah, I haven't got the data together yet. I'm still cleaning the data set, but that project is in progress. And yeah, I'm also looking for work. So I'm hoping that at some point somebody's going to realise that Dr. Helen Pheasy needs a job.
If you're watching, there you go. Reach out to Helen. Thank you very much, Helen, for all this. This is a great information, and I will be putting this whole interview on the Canio Palma Instagram site, and as well the Facebook site. We'll also put in links to contacts, to Helen's contact as well, any additional information through that comes out beyond this. And as well, Helen, you mentioned was it a job site or a recruiting site? You mentioned right at the beginning of the interview that you were
Stop Dodo. Stop Dodo is quite. It's called Stop Dodo.
Yeah.
And it's where I found. I'm pretty sure it's where I heard about this original project with Canio Palma when I first came across them. But it's certainly, if you're looking to do like volunteer work overseas, or to get like, you know, early career positions or further down the line, there are a lot of jobs on there. So if you're looking for a field post, I really think it's a good place to start looking. So you never know what might be out there. But
exactly.
volunteer, honestly, is the best way to get experience and stuff on your CV if you're looking for work.
And if you're going to volunteer, come down to the station. It's beautiful down there. You'll love it.
It's so nice. Honestly, I miss it so much. I want to go back tomorrow.
Even in the rain, it's beautiful.
Oh, I'll take the rain. Yeah.
Exactly.
Even when the kitchen's flooded, don't care. I want
That's
to
right.
be there.
You have to canoe from your room to the kitchen. That's when you know you've really experienced Canio Palma. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good time, man. It's a good time.
Thank you very much, and have a good evening.